we wanted to start today just a little bit of discussion about OUA football, a little bit of discussion about what's been going on in the standings. Obviously, hugely competitive this year so far in the OUA. We have two undefeated teams, 2-0, Laurier, and you know what? I can't actually remember the other team that's 2-0. Oh, Ottawa U is 2-0, and then we have four teams that are 2-1 right now, including Carleton, Western, McMaster, and the surprising York Lions at 2-1. So, obviously last week, Carleton University had a huge win, probably their biggest win in franchise history, against the Western Mustangs, 38-31, comeback win. Jesse Mills, best game as a passer. I think he was 25 for 37, 330 yards. Huge game for Carleton Ravens. I wanted to get sort of your opinion of what you've been seeing in the OUA this year so far.
Yeah, man, it's wonderful to see because it makes the game so much more exciting when you don't really know. It's not a foregone conclusion when you're tuning into these games. But what I will say is the events that unfolded this weekend with Ottawa U taking out McMaster, who I think were nationally ranked at number 6 by a score of 30-8, and from firsthand accounts from people that were there. I asked, what happened? Was it kind of fluky? What's going on? And they said, no, Ottawa U manhandled the Marauders. So this is just going to make the Panda Bowl that much better. I don't know exactly what the schedules are here. I know
October 1st.
Yeah, October 1st. So coming up. But Carleton's got Laurier this weekend. So another, a pretty front-heavy schedule for the most part with Western and Mac, and then now Laurier, and Laurier's undefeated. So I think, if Carleton can cruise past Laurier, I think that they've got their season on track.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that I think you mentioned it just before. It's that it's so great to know that every week we're going to have probably 2 or 3 matchups of teams that it's going to be a competitive game. Based on, our experience when you played at McMaster, most of the games that you guys played, you guys were destroying teams. And there was probably 2 games a year that you knew you had to stay focused. It was Western and it was Laurier. But other than that, most teams that you played, you were pretty confident that you were going to whoop their butts. And now that we have... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if I look back to the 2002, which is the year that I started in the OUA, I think it was Western. Obviously, it was a big opponent, and Greg Marshall, head coach for Western, was our coach at McMaster at the time before he left for the Ticats for a few years. But that was his alma mater. So every week there was a different tone when we went to go play Western. But Waterloo was kind of in the same category of kind of the basement dwellers of the OUA. That hasn't changed. York was in the same boat. They've kind of rebuilt, and they're seem to be investing a lot in their program and doing things the right way. U of T really has come a long way in the last few years.
They have come a long way.
Yeah. Maybe this year, and I was always surprised at U of T, because you would think that it would be easy to recruit kids to go live downtown Toronto at a beautiful campus and a top-ranked academic school. But, then again, maybe you get a lot of the brainiacs going there that are too interested in playing football. So,
yeah, well, you know what? I think it's funny you mentioned that. Like, a lot of times, it's not just at U of T, but I think in general, there's just not a great marketing campaign for the sport of football in the OUA and in the CIS in general. It seems like it's almost like the forgotten thing. Obviously, basketball gets a lot of recognition in the OUA and in CIS, but at the end of the day, there is no reason why a university shouldn't have a good football team, and there's no reason that it shouldn't. Yeah. It should be marketed. The U of T has a great campus. They have a great facility they can play at. Same with York. Same with Waterloo. All these places should have good football teams, but obviously, it just doesn't seem like it's a priority for the schools.
Right, and I think to your point on basketball can stand on its own 2 feet, like as a sport. I mean, the amount of kids that play basketball and I don't really think the OUA or the CIS is really enhancing the sport of basketball. Like they're playing very competitive levels of it, but that game's going to be popular because of the NBA and the NCAA, no matter what. So, but I think football is a bit of a different case. There's less people that play football in the grassroots level. I think they do require more to make sure that it's kind of the flagship sport or one of the flagship sports in the at the university level. And I agree with you. I think it's gradually gotten better, but I really, from what my experience is, I don't think that all the teams are on the same page and promoting and building the culture the way it needs to for that sport to flourish at that level.
No, it's true, and we're lucky in Ottawa with football. We got a great CFL franchise. We have the largest amateur football association in all of Canada. We have two really good football programs in Carleton and Ottawa U. So I guess we're a bit spoiled, but the bottom line is this: football is an amazing sport which we love. And the product that the OUA and the CIS in general is putting forward nowadays is the best it's ever been. Yet we still don't have. Yet it's not on TV for the country to watch, and it's not in a position where people can really become fans of it because, well, where do they go to get all this information? You're only a fan if you know somebody in it, or if you're maybe you went to Laurier and you might follow up on how the football team is doing, but. This is a sport that should have a great fan base, in my opinion. This is just my opinion here. Yeah. It should have a great fan base.
And I mean, there's also a culture. I mean, like if you think about the big boosters and the alumni in the United States, I mean, a good part of the reason why these programs do so well is because they've been able to create a culture with alumni to support it and continue to financially endorse what the product is, right? So they have a very and some schools do a really good job of this. Some teams have a non-existent alumni base, but at the same time, as an ex-OUA player and CIS player, there aren't a lot of opportunities, I don't think, for guys to come back to the sport. I mean, unless you're going to devote your life to be a professional coach, and kind of go that direction to quit your job. And I mean, really, other than coaching, what other options are there for ex-CIS guys to get involved?
There's not much, there really isn't.
In my experience, there isn't. So I think that's an oversight. Can I suggest like ways to do things differently? I mean, no, not necessarily, but I just know that building that kind of culture and that fan base of bringing people in and truly caring about what recruits they're bringing in, the moves they're making on the roster, like all these sort of things that kind of enhance the experience for a fan are non-existent.
And you know what? We hope that with a little bit about what we're doing with the sport in the city of Ottawa and the relationships that we're building, and maybe going forward the opportunities we're going to have when some of our HESN athletes who are just starting to sort of become unprofessional, but university athletes, guys like Curly Gittins Jr. and Brad Cowan and Jacob Spinella and Curtis Schaefer. These are just to name a few off the top of my head that we have been following since they've been 15, 16 years old. Hopefully, with their success, which all of them are, successfully making teams and now contributing on the field, hopefully we can shed some light on their successes, on the programs they're a part of, and more people can join in, and then maybe it can sort of snowball into something even greater. And you know what? Yep. I always remember when the Score started doing the weekly games for the OUA football. I thought that was just the one of the most important things to make this sport become better than what it was. And I really credit guys like Sid Sixero and Tim McAuliffe and Elliot Friedman, who's now one of the best hockey broadcasters and writers in the world, with allowing the sport to flourish and reach the next level. And hopefully we're going to see another something happen to make it go to the next level.
Yeah, it was a massive step forward, and I don't think we understood at the time in 2002 how lucky we were to have that, seeing as how maybe we just thought that that's the way it always was, but it wasn't. And I will say though, like there are I think 4 or 5 games that are going to be on City, live on City. So the OUA and the CIS is experimenting with some national broadcasting. The West does it with Shaw. Jim Mullen, I'm a huge fan of. He does the Crown Countdown U and puts an amazing production together on YouTube. I think this is one of these guys that has been kind of pushing and pioneering the media in the CIS for God knows how long he's been doing it, but he'd be a good guy to get on the podcast, in fact. But I mean, there's people that are, just because they're so passionate about CIS football, they're left to will things into reality without any help from anybody to do this, because they want it to be available for other people and make things better. But there just really aren't that many avenues for people to try to give back and to contribute. So that's something I think is missing. I mean, if there were more opportunities for guys like in my time, the Beamsville Bomber or Tommy Dennison to be kind of chipping in and on Queens' performance and 0-2 kind of start to the season. I mean, I want to hear that. I want to see that. So, yeah, but they are experimenting. And you said you watched, I think, a Manitoba game last year on TV, and you were blown away by the production value. It's
funny you mentioned that. I was just waiting for my time to speak here, and I was going to say that. I remember I was at a cottage, and it was raining, and we were just flicking the channels, and lo and behold, it was I think it was University of Manitoba versus Saskatchewan Huskies, and the broadcast was amazing. It was HD. They had replays. It was just like, I was like, this is what we need. It was fantastic. And then it was the Crown broadcast. So they do a great job. There are great people out there trying. Unfortunately, right now, maybe like you just said, maybe not enough support from maybe the institutions of the school to understand how valuable having these great sports programs and the media accessibility, how great and important it really is to help the sport flourish. But you know what? I do think there are tons of great things happening, and we wanted to discuss it a little bit on the podcast today, so we could bring it to light and hopefully
get the conversation going.
Get the conversation going, right? We're not here to criticize.
I will say, Tyler, like the other thing I noticed is, we've talked to people about the desire we were just talking about before we went on air, about the desire that kids have of going to the United States for a prep school or something like that, and what you're doing is you're draining your talent base when you can't put a product at home for these kids to kind of be proud about and to aspire to. Then they have no choice but to seek better competition or a better product somewhere else. It happens in hockey. We lose about 10 to 12 of the best hockey players even as early as the age of 12 or 13 now to Toronto, because there's an illusion that there's better hockey down there. The same thing happens with football and Canada Prep. I haven't really heard that many great things about it. I know a lot of kids that do go down there end up playing in the CIS, which isn't what their intent is when they go there. So it's the kind of thing where I think the CIS needs to realize for footballs, specifically, that when somebody plays in the CIS or has a son in the CIS playing football, they're a fan for life, and you're missing out a huge market when you can't keep people involved throughout the years, or attract new people to become young players to become fans of what the product is on the CIS field. So, I mean, I think what interests me the most is investing in our own backyard, or development of our own football here in Ottawa, and that I think will lead to through the transit of nature, like the CIS will get better and the city will get more fans, and it's pretty simple in my mind.
Great words spoken right there, Jesse. I gotta say that's a great take, and hopefully a lot of people can hear it and digest it and think about it, and maybe they can start making a difference and helping the conversation spread like wildfire, so we can see these kids get the recognition they deserve. Now, speaking about the recognition of kids,